Hello, lovely, and welcome to the Essence of Expression podcast. Get ready to explore insights, lessons, practices, and wisdom from life for life. I'm your host, Arejay, healer, teacher, student, and sage. I'm excited and honored to have you with me on this journey. Let's dive in. I wanted to share my answer to a question in a Facebook group that I'm in, and I wanted to go a little bit more in depth because people were interested. So in this group that I'm in, the question was asked, what have you healed from? And in my list of things, one of the things I've healed from is being a disempowered empath, which sparked a lot of curiosity, and I figured it was going to be easier to speak it out than to try and type what could potentially be this really long answer. And before I get into how did I heal from being a disempowered empath, I kind of want to paint a picture of what me as a disempowered empath looked like. One, to help you understand the shift, and also to give you, just a little insight. So maybe you can see if that's where you are on the spectrum with it right now. So for me as a disempowered empath, part of what that looked like was I would avoid funerals. I would avoid any spaces like that where if it was really highly charged with negative emotions, quote unquote negative emotions. I don't believe emotions are negative at this point. Back then, very much did. But I would avoid places like that and going to funerals and things like that because I would come away physically ill. I would literally either that same day or the next day, it was vomiting and everything else. My system really just could not take it, right? It couldn't take just the range of emotions of people, and that many people. It was very overwhelming. It also looked like developing the same aches and pains in my body as loved ones if I was around them for a significant amount of time, when I didn't have any type of illness or affliction, right? I would hurt where they hurt. And in the disempowered empath state, I was also really, really quick to jump in and fix other people's problems, and really good at it, but also just really quick to jump in and try to fix, right? And people would tell me, I'd be out in public, if I was waiting somewhere, let's say at airport or whatever, I'd be out in public and people would just kind of come plop down next to me and just start telling me their life story, or telling me about this fight that they had with a loved one, and just things that they've never told people, and just spewing it out, right? Just nonstop. Now, I didn't really particularly care to talk to begin with, but they would come right where I am and just sit and just start talking nonstop, and just, I know your whole life story and I'm just waiting to get on the airplane, and meanwhile I'm just kind of sitting here next to you, as you're telling me this, hoping that please don't let this person be the passenger that's seated next to me on the airplane, right? Let there be an end to this. But people would just tell me their whole life stories and all the secrets and all the things, and just whatever they needed to do to feel release or less weight or whatever. And then I also had two modes of feeling then. So at the beginning of it, it would be feeling everything, right? And this idea that I just absorbed everyone's feelings. And the other mode would be the numbed out mode, right? Because that was the only way that I could not feel everything all at once and be overwhelmed. I had no ability to modulate whatsoever. So it was either we are on and we are wide the fuck open, or numb and apathy. I just can't care, right? Because if I do, it's gonna hurt and everything comes rushing in. So that's just to give you an idea of what disempowered empath for me looked like, right? Now, in terms of what I did to heal from that, looking back on everything and encapsulating it, it's going to sound very simple and it's going to sound very easy. And to some degree, it is very simple, not very easy. Like, this was a length of time. This is like over a course of years that this would unfold for me. So don't by any means think like it's going to be, like, it can be a short process. Like, if you're actively working on it, it can be. I was not actively working on it. This is just like over time after doing these things, I was like, oh, like, I'm not in the same place with my gift of empathy that I used to be in, right? But these are very much the things that got me there. So the first one is learn to manage energy, right? I learned to work with energy and be able to like manipulate and channel and direct it. And part of that, in part of that process was learning different techniques to help protect, to cleanse, to expand, any number of things, but really learning to understand energy, learning to manage it. And I actually did a energy healing apprenticeship that was a year-long apprenticeship, so it went through a couple of different modalities, but one in particular, like Reiki in particular, really helped me. And it's what started to let me be able to go into spaces I couldn't go into before as an empath, because it gave me tools to help me better modulate energy and to be able to better protect myself and make adjustments that I didn't know how to do prior to that, right? And I loved Reiki so much, I actually ended up continuing on with that, and so I became a Reiki certified master teacher. So not only do I practice it, but I can also teach and certify other master level practitioners. Then the next thing I did was I released the absorption story that disempowered empaths have, right? And that story goes like this. I am an empath. I absorb everyone else's emotions and feelings, right? Or sensations if you happen to be more of a physical empath. But it's that when we first start out, it sounds true. And that's not to say that we are not capable of it. We are capable of that. We are capable of that. But it is an ability, not a necessity, right? So much like the way, I can run, I can walk, I can crawl, right? That running is an ability. I'm not always running everywhere I go, right? And a lot of us who have this gift, especially if we're with people who didn't really understand it or didn't have it, and we didn't have people to guide us through it, it's a lot like when a toddler starts to walk, right? Most toddlers at the very beginning stage of walking, they don't really walk, right? They have mode of like, I'm gonna wobble, or I'm gonna go really fast, but they don't have like, I can control my walk, right? So learning to release that story that no, because I'm an empath, I do not absorb everyone's emotions. It is something I am capable of. Like, I can absorb emotions, but that is not what being an empath is and what it has to mean. So releasing that story. The next thing was I stopped laying claim to emotions. And what I mean is it's very easy and very typical, especially like in the US, instead of using the term I feel an emotion, for some reason we're usually taught I am the emotion. So we're taught to say things like I am angry instead of I feel anger, right? And so a lot of us, it's very common to I am insert whatever emotion, right? And so when we do that, though, we are laying claim to that emotion. We are putting the energy, the vibration, we are initiating the ownership of that with like our full being, right? When we say that, because we speak things into existence. So when we say I am and whatever follows that, right? Like every part of our being goes to work to make that true. So instead of saying I am an emotion, I learned to give myself the space to say, oh, I'm currently feeling the emotion, which then would give me the space to say, well, why? Like, where is it coming from? And then I could look and see, like, is it my stuff? Is it actually my emotion? Or like, am I getting this input from the environment that I'm in? And if it's from the environment, like, I don't need to claim that. I don't need to take that in. I don't need to do anything with that. Like, hi, you're here. Thanks for showing up. You're not welcome to come in. And then I started to work with emotions as messengers, right? And so before that, emotions were just kind of things to be, I mean, if they were what society would label as positive emotions, those were fine. Just don't get carried away with it, right? But if they were what most people would view as negative emotions, so like anger, sadness, grief, any of those, like, you should avoid them. That was really like the messaging around it in formative years, right? Like I was always called overly sensitive and everything else. So it was just like, just don't show that. Don't, like, suck it up. Don't be that, right? And so that's how I had learned to work with emotions, was really by not really working with them if they were negative. Like, suck it up, call it a day, do something else, distract yourself, whatever. And so when I actually started to, like, allow myself to be with these feelings, with these emotions, right? And allow myself to get curious with them and actually sit with them and treat them as though they were a being I was having a conversation with, right? Like as though a friend had sat down and I've got questions on like what you've been up to or like why you showed up. And that really took away a lot of the charge in a lot of ways, because it took away a lot of the judgment that I used to have around emotions and certain emotions in particular. When I learned to be curious of like, what message are you delivering to me? Not trying to dismiss that you're here, but acknowledging that you're present and assuming you are present for a reason and it serves a purpose. So what is the message? What are you trying to let me know? What are you trying to make me aware of? So those are the things that, like, over the course of a few years, that I would do. And so it was learn to manage energy, release the absorption story, stop laying claim to emotions, and start working with emotions as messengers. So what does that look like now in the empowered empath state, right? So I still maintain the energetic hygiene and practices that I learned from like Reiki and energy healing and all of that. And like I can now go to funerals. I don't get sick. I actually don't get sick in general as much as I used to. I used to always have not always, but I would very, very frequently have upset stomach and a lot of vomiting especially growing up. And so like I don't get sick as much as I used to, and I hesitate to call it sick now because what I realize is what I was very quick to label sick because I am from a Western culture and like things coming out of the body is not considered healing, it's considered sick, was my body's response to me holding on to me just collecting too much energy that was not mine and wasn't meant for me, and not being able to process through it. So it was detoxing essentially. But I don't get sick like that, right? I also don't play the rescue game anymore. So I used to really be quick to fix someone else's problems and not necessarily let them work through it. And part of that was like, yes, I will always want to help people and I always want people to do better, and that will never change. But the way I go about it is very different, right? Because people are very capable of helping themselves, and it's just oftentimes giving people the space and the tools to do that, and to be able to feel what they need to feel. And so now it's I can hold the space for people, right? So for example, before, if it was in the disempowered empath state, like if someone's crying, I immediately want to do any and everything I can to get them to stop crying, right? To get them to stop crying and stop feeling the hurt is what I want to do. And that was how I would respond and react. And a lot of it was because I couldn't modulate, so their sadness and their tears feel like my sadness. And it didn't like feeling that way, and I want it to stop, right? That doesn't negate the fact that I wanted to help the person, because I did. It was just also, there was a lot of, oh, when I fix it for them and it stops for them, it stops for me. And now I don't have that. Now it's I can sit with you while you cry and feel your way through it, because I'm not taking on the energetic of it. I'm not taking on the emotional toll of it. So if crying is what you need, that's fine, and I will sit with you. No problem, right? So, and actually I went from, in the disempowered empath state, like I wouldn't go to funerals, and I couldn't go to events where things were emotionally charged, and especially with like grief and sadness and anger, like I couldn't do it. And now it's funny, because now actually one of my favorite things to do is to be a space holder and help manage like the energy in the room for transformational events. So people are willingly going to their darker places, going to the painful places, and sitting with them and letting whatever needs to come up, right? And being in that space, it's a very, very emotionally charged and energetically charged space. And I can do that now. I love to do that now. As a matter of fact, not only can I do it, I enjoy being there and being able to help support in that way. And in terms of people talking to me, like people will still talk to me and they will still share, but they share when I'm open to it, right? Like I've learned that I can be in public and I can kind of modulate like the energy that I'm putting out, right? Not just be this like open, like, hey, I'm here, everybody, type of a flair to people who just want to come and dump, right? And I also learned to put boundaries even around when it comes to the people that are close to me, right? That I love and care for, because sometimes they want to vent, and if I'm not in a space to receive that at that moment, like I'll reschedule with them. And that's okay. That's something that we get to do. And it's not something that's, I mean, it's shared more now, but it's not something that, like, I didn't learn that until I was an adult, right? That just because someone wants to share right now doesn't mean that you have to agree to that. And for those of you who are maybe hard to post, like you feel like it's hard to postpone because you feel like it's not you being there, I want to challenge you with that, because for me, when I'm in a place where I can hold things and I can be objective and I can just sit and like be neutral, right, and be fully present, I show up way better for this person, and way, like, it's just a way better experience for them than if I have my own shit going on and still need to like regulate myself first. But because they're here now, I just say yes, right? Now they're dumping their shit. I'm probably only partially listening because I'm feeling a lot of my shit and I'm starting to feel their shit. Now I'm just trying to like regulate and listen, which is not as powerful and potent as being completely there, already regulated, and just fully listening and fully experiencing them and fully witnessing. So which one actually serves better? This was a large part of my own healing journey and coming back home to myself and back to my gifts. And it's enabled me to step further into healing work. So I still do energy healing. I do coaching as well. And it's something I wouldn't be able to do any of that to the level of impact and the level of potency that I can if I hadn't first gone through reconciling that disempowered empath and learning how to step in fully and to work with that gift instead of seeing it as a curse, and instead of it feeling that way and me experiencing it like that. It's very much a gift. It's also why, if you ever hear me talk about like energetic protection, a lot of people will say to shield yourself, and I don't teach people to do that. And I largely don't teach it because I am a firm believer that for those of us who are empaths and are very sensitive, it's because we're here to help people heal. And in order to do that, we need to be aware of what's present. And this gift allows us to do that. So it's not that we want to shield, but it is that we would want to filter, right? We still very much control what can come in to our space, but we should be aware and able to sense it, like, oh, something's here, without it fully entering. So if you have questions, if you would like some support around this, I am here. Just reach out. You can shoot me, you can DM me, or you can just go to the contact page on the essenceofexpression.com and send me over a message. Thank you for your time and attention. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show. If someone came to mind while you were listening to this episode, please take a moment to share it with them. If you're interested in joining a community and diving further into these topics, please visit theessenceofexpression.com/community and request to join our community group. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night or day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.